Hello, everybody. This is Andy Gibson with InfoTrust. We're going to go ahead and get started here. We'll probably have some more people trickle in. But welcome to the webinar today. We're going to be talking about how to know if your organization is ready for Google Analytics 360. If you have any questions as the webinar is going on, feel free to use the questions panel and go to webinar. This question, without fail, I get every single time I do a webinar. Yes, we are recording the webinar. Yes, we will send out the deck afterwards. So please don't worry about that. We will take care of you there. Also, if you'd like to contact me, my email address is going to be on the last slide. So if you have any additional questions you want to ask, questions you didn't want to ask during the presentation, feel free to reach out and we'll take care of you there. Wanted to introduce myself here real quick. My name is Andy Gibson. I am the head of vertical over here with InfoTrust. We're based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm a Google marketing platform expert, which basically just means I deal a lot with the Google marketing platform products within that. So Google Analytics 360, Google Tag Manager 360, Optimize 360, all of those products have a lot of experience there. So I've worked with some of the largest companies and brands in the world. I've been using GA360 since it was first available as Google Analytics Premium back in, I think it was 2013. So I have a very good familiarity with it. I also am an adjunct professor at the University of Cincinnati teaching digital analytics. So that's definitely a passion of mine. Let me talk a little bit about InfoTrust. So the company I work for, we are an independence analytics consultancy and product development company. We are headquarters in Cincinnati, as I mentioned, but we also have offices in Chicago, Barcelona, and Dubai. The way we think about our organization is that we help other organizations increase their return on investment. So the things that we do, the types of services we provide around data compliance and security, digital architecture and data integration, technical implementation and support, digital analytics strategy, and data science as well. So we do have a number of technology partnerships. One obviously is going to be the Google Marketing Platform. So we are Google Analytics 360 sales partners, which means we resell the enterprise version of Google Analytics. The DoubleClick platform that's actually been rolled into the Google Marketing Platform. Google Cloud, this is a new certification that we have, which we're very excited about. And then BlueCon and Concession Cam are two of the other products that we have partnerships with. All right, so for the agenda today, I wanted to talk about a couple things. So let's first chat about, is Google Analytics 360 right for your organization? We'll go over some of the indicators that you may need Google Analytics 360, and these will be very apparent as we're going through those, like, oh, wow, yes, we have this, we have that. If you don't have any of them, then most likely you're just not ready for Google Analytics 360. We'll also talk about showing return on investment for Google Analytics 360 and analytics in general for an enterprise level organization. I'll talk about selling GA360 to management, and then also we'll touch on how to choose a sales partner for GA360. And I think that piece is really important, as of course you are shopping around for Google Analytics 360 and talking with partners. Is really important to understand what you should be looking for and how you can really leverage them to get the most out of your contract. So, I'll also leave some time at the very end for Q&A. So as you submit those questions, I will read those at the very end and we will go through them there. Okay, so first, let's discuss if an enterprise level platform like Google Analytics 360 is right for your organization. So working with some of the largest companies and brands in the world, we do get to hear their largest digital analytics pain points. The number one business problem we hear is that they have an enormous amount of data, but little to no ability to generate insights or actions. I do want to level set your expectations here. Purchasing an enterprise level tool is not going to solve this issue on its own. Of course, there are a lot of other things that go into purchasing an enterprise level tool in terms of, which we'll talk about here in a second, but obviously you need people that understand how the tool works. You need processes in place in your organization to take advantage of it. And so don't think that if you have no people, you have no processes in place, just purchasing an enterprise tool is going to change the way you guys do digital analytics. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that, of course. And so one thing I did want to introduce you to is our six P's of digital analytics transformation framework. Really, this is a model that we use with all of our clients for how to transform their digital analytics operations throughout their organization. I want to stress a few things here. One is, like I mentioned, if you do not have skilled, knowledgeable people and defined processes to take action on your data, you should not be investing in an enterprise level tool like GA360. We hear this a lot where people say, we really think that we could use Google Analytics 360 because we're running into sampling, or we need it for this or need it for that. We get into the sales process and start asking questions. Okay, who all is going to be supporting the tool? How do you plan on using it? They don't have those types of things figured out, and most of the time, they don't have anybody to actually own that within the organization. And so that's the tricky part. So of course, we want to make sure that your organization is going to be ready for an enterprise level analytics tool like GA360. And so this is one of the reasons that we introduced the 6Ps of digital analytics transformation to make sure that our clients are ready. The other point here is a lot of paid enterprise tools actually have free or scaled down versions you're able to utilize. So if you are not currently using a lot of the features in Google Analytics that has GA360 capabilities, if you're only using a lot of the free functionality there, you don't necessarily need to hop up to GA360 to get benefits of using something like Google Analytics. We have a number of large organizations that we've worked with in the past that get by just fine with the standard version, the free version of Google Analytics. Obviously, we resell GA360 as sales partners. We want to get people upgraded into the platform, but we only will work with organizations that have a need and are ready to utilize an enterprise platform like GA360. Otherwise, that partnership is just not going to be successful on both sides. And at the end of the day, if we fail to transform your organization's digital analytics, we've failed you. And that's not something that we want to do. So we want to set both of our teams up for success. And to do that, you really need to understand the people and the processes that need to be in place before you purchase something like Google Analytics 360. Assuming you do have those people and processes in place, let's take a look at some of the benefits that you will get with a paid solution like GA360. So for some of these are very high level, but for things like more granular segmentation analysis, more integrations, more control, more data collection capabilities, more sophisticated reports, all this stuff is what we'll cover here on the next slide. So when it comes down to the actual benefits between the free version of Google Analytics and the paid version of Google Analytics 360, there are a couple major things to point out. One is just in the sheer amount of data processing and data that's available to you with the 360 version. So with the free version, you are subject to data sampling. Your data freshness, how long it takes for data to actually show up in your reports, can be anywhere between 24 and 48 hours, depending on how much traffic you have. You can only export up to 5,000 rows and so on. So you do have a lot of limitations with the free version. Whereas with the paid version, the 360 version, you do get access to unsampled data. You have a guarantee, a service level agreement with Google for 4 hours fresh data, but the actual average is closer to 10 to 15 minutes at this point. You get access to 3 million rows that you can actually export, and then you also have a BigQuery integration, which kind of goes into the next section, other Google integrations that you get access to. So with the free version, you get access to a couple of the integrations like AdWords, which is a big one. With the 360 version, you get access to all of the DoubleClick products that have been essentially renamed within that Google marketing platform. So Display and Video 360, Search Ads 360, Google Ad Manager, all of those have integrations with only the 360 version. And then there are a couple of enterprise level features that the free version just doesn't have. So data-driven attribution, GA360 roll-up reporting, custom funnels, custom tables, all of these things are features that you will not have access to at all within the free version. And then really the other big thing to call out here is the support and service that you get. So with the free version, you are most likely self-service there. So you can go out and find a Google Analytics certified partner that will help you, but it's not in any type of contract. You have to go out and purchase a contract with a GACP to say, we want 10 hours of support a month. With your Google Analytics 360 contract, you have a service level agreement with Google based on those data processing terms that we talked about, but then you also have a contract with a sales partner like InfoTrust. For that, that contract covers things like implementation services and support, 24/7 ongoing support, project management, comprehensive trainings, which is a big one. We're really big into teaching people how to fish. So we don't want you to be dependent on us to answer very simple questions. We want to make sure that you become a Google Analytics 360 power user, and of course, other people on your team as well. And so that support and that service is a lot of the times what people generally will purchase GA360 for, mainly because they need that hands-on experience, that hands-on support from a sales partner like us. So let's go through some of the indicators that you may need Google Analytics 360. And I think I mentioned a lot of these will definitely pop out at you if you've run into any of these in the past. So one is your reports in the interface are often returning sample data. This is definitely a big one. So we hear this a lot. People are seeing the sample data within the report and saying, this data doesn't look right, or I'm really wanting to pull the e-commerce revenue for 100% of the sessions, and I'm just not comfortable with having a subset of the data to be reporting on. That's totally fair. A lot of the times with that, it's because of that data is being shown to management level, C-suite level, that you really want that data to be accurate, and that's of course understandable. So this is one of the times where it makes sense to have that access to unsampled data both in the interface and then available for export into BigQuery or into any of the data visualization and reporting tools that you use. Another one is you need access to fresh data to make these marketing and advertising decisions on an hourly or a daily basis rather than waiting a few days like it takes with Google Analytics Standard, the free version. So this is another big one. If you are trying to do a lot of optimization for your ad campaigns, you really want to see that data come in quickly and then make updates, make optimizations to the ads that you're showing, keywords, search terms, all these types of things, then it makes sense that if you are doing that on a timely basis, you want that data to be refreshed as quickly as possible. So with Google Analytics 360, as I mentioned, you do get that SLA of 4 hours or less within the interface, but in actuality is closer to 10 to 15 minutes at this point. And I'm one day hoping that Google actually removes any of that latency at some point, which I do think they're getting closer to that, but they're not there yet. So you do get much more fresh data when you are a Google Analytics 360 customer, which is nice. Another big one is you need access to hit level data, and that can be for things like advanced analysis or to connect that data with user level data from your other platforms like a CRM system, a customer relationship management system, a point of sale system, any of these other types of platforms that you'd like to connect that with. As you may know, with the data that's exported from the regular free version of GA, it's all session based. There is no way to pull out hit number 1 was this person visited this page, hit number 2 was this page, hit number 3 was this page. The way that you actually have to do that is by pulling out hit level data, and that's just not available with the free version of Google Analytics. With the 360 version, you do get access to that hit level data. So it's almost just like log data of every single hit that goes through to Google Analytics 360. Now, this is actually made available with the integration with BigQuery. So depending on how you set up BigQuery, it can be set up for integration where it exports data a couple times a day, or it streams data throughout the day into BigQuery. So either one of those will give you access to that hit level data that you need. And so for any of the type of data science projects that we do, where it's based off of things like customer lifetime value analysis, pathing analysis, clustering, any of those things that we do, it's all based off of this hit level data that is made available within BigQuery through that GA360 integration. Another big one is you use other Google marketing platforms. So surprise, surprise, all of the Google marketing platform products connect very well together. So other products like Search Ads 360, Display and Video 360, Google Ad Manager, all of those can actually be integrated with Google Analytics 360 for deeper insights. And so that's very, very effective if you're trying to do things like remarketing, retargeting. You want to utilize people's behavior activity on your site or your app, and then remarket or retarget based off of that within one of these other Google marketing platform products. And then the last one, not as sexy here, but your company requires an SLA for all the products used. So for some of the very large enterprise companies that we work with, they cannot work with any enterprise level tool that doesn't have an SLA. So if this is your organization, GA360 does have an SLA, of course, and so in that case, you are all set there. If that's not of importance to you, if anything less, it's just nice to have that so you know that if there are any issues with uptime or data freshness or anything like that, you do have a contract with Google to go back to them and say, hey, we need a rebate or something like that because you guys didn't meet the SLA. I've actually only seen that happen once in the last probably 6 or 7 years. So it doesn't happen very often, but you do have that service level agreement with them. So let's talk about the sampling. So if you are seeing sampling in the interface, you will end up seeing this kind of, I don't know what they call it now, a shield that shows up as yellow, and it'll show you this report's based on a subset of the session. So in this case, it's about 6.5% of sessions. With the free version of Google Analytics, you get up to 500,000 sessions for a specific time frame before it'll start sampling in some reports. So for any of the overview reports, any of the aggregate reports, those reports are generally going to be unsampled. But when you start adding in secondary dimensions or table filters, anything like that, that's when you'll start running into sampling. So the GA standard sampling limit is set at 500,000 sessions. For GA360, right now it's at 100 million sessions, but this is constantly being updated. So I think when I first started working with GA360 back in 2013, 2014, it was around 25 million. Now it's all the way up to 100 million. I've seen it for some properties up to 125. So that means they're always increasing and testing and stuff like that. So it will get larger. One day I do hope that there is no sampling at all in the interface, which I do think Google's moving towards. Another thing that we talked about is just access to fresh data. So this is a big one when we see organizations that are trying to make a lot of these optimizations and they're complaining, we don't get data quick enough to actually make any decisions on it. So, we launch a campaign on a Monday, we don't have all the data that we need until, Tuesday by lunch or something like that. And for us, that just doesn't work. That's totally understandable. In this case, with Google Analytics 360, you do have that SLA of 4 hours or less, but it does average closer to 10 to 15 minutes. And really, it depends on how much site traffic you're getting. So if you don't get a lot of traffic and you're on 360, it can be seconds. If you get a ton of traffic, we're talking about thousands and tens of thousands of sessions an hour, those cases can be closer to probably 10 to 15 minutes. But generally, the average is definitely closer to 10 to 15 than that 4 hours or less, but you do have that service level agreement in place. The other thing that I wanted to show is, so we were talking about hit level data. For hit level data, this is what you would actually see out of something like BigQuery for every single hit in a session. So this is an example of what hit level data actually looks like. If you think about Google Analytics' standard version, if you export that information, it's session based because it's only going to export, the sessions. Here's the number of sessions that came from specific sources and mediums. You can't get down to the full visitor ID and the hit numbers in sequence. And so what this allows us to do, it allows us to do a lot of advanced analysis, but also connect user level data with other platforms. So I mentioned our data science team does a lot of customer lifetime value analysis, cluster analysis, pathing analysis, and things similar to that. For those, we really do need the hit level data to be able to calculate some of these things. So this has been a big one. And with that GA360 integration, you do get an integration with BigQuery, which then puts the data into kind of rows like this for every single hit in a person's visit. The other one here, Google, the integrations with Google Marketing Platform products. So this is just an example of some on the left-hand side, some of the current integrations that there are. Of course, it's surprise, surprise, all of the GMP products in there. There's a couple other ones in there like Yahoo stuff, but outside of that, it's mainly Google products. And then on the right-hand side here, you'll see an example of a DB360 integration report within GA360. So in this case, it's breaking it down by, let's see, CM model, and the actual attribution types are based on either view through or click through. So click through means someone's actually clicked through an ad and done something on your site. View through means the person has just seen that ad, and then we can still tie that person to their behavior on site because we know that person has seen the actual ad. So that adds a little bit more layer of complexity to that, but allows you for definitely much more detailed analysis to understand, okay, maybe they didn't click on specific ads, but they still came and purchased something. They still saw our ad, and then we can still attribute that to purchasing or to converting on our site, however you think about that. And then the last one, of course, is the very sexy service level agreement. So this is just a printout of the different SLAs that you have with Google. It's just a list of the guarantees that you have with them for things like data freshness, for uptime for the interface, and things like that. So again, this is usually most important for the companies that require a service level agreement for any of their products that are going to be used. So in that case, you're definitely all set here. All right, so a couple of things I wanted to talk about now were demonstrating the ROI of analytics. And this is certainly a tough thing to do. It's not as easy as saying, like, we implemented GA 360 yesterday. By today, we can tell our return on investment is 50%. It's not as cut and dry as that, unfortunately. It's the same thing as, someone saying, hey, what's the ROI of buying this brand new email marketing system, or integrating Slack within our organization as a communications tool? It's not super tangible, but there are ways of demonstrating this, which I do want to talk about. So one of the common questions we hear is, how do we secure a budget for an enterprise analytics solution? Really, the way we think about it is you really need to change the conversation to, what do we need to demonstrate to keep our budget, or to get a budget and secure a renewal? So in these cases, instead of asking how to get a budget, it's very important to demonstrate what you're actually going to be getting out of the product before you take this to your boss or your C-suite team, or whoever, to try to ask for budget to purchase something. Okay, so let's talk about one of the ways to demonstrate ROI of analytics is targeting and segmentation. So in this, it's important to focus on long-term success, not simply the first conversion. It's not going to be cost efficient to design a optimal customer experience for everyone, so you have to choose where to invest. And so, being able to attribute this is going to be very important to, sorry, I moved back there. It's going to be very important to demonstrating an ROI here. One of the things that we also see that's very successful is focusing on finding customers that create value for the company, but also long-term. So being able to identify very high value customers is of supreme importance, to be able to say, we can now tell the top 10% of our customers in terms of lifetime value. And now we have programs and platforms and processes in place to actually remarket to these people to continue their brand loyalty, or we're cutting out the bottom 10% of our customer lifetime value customers because they're just driving down our customer lifetime value. So being able to identify these types of customers within your organization is definitely important, and that's a great way to demonstrate how much of a return you're going to get by showing your bosses, your management team, how you're able to do things like customer retargeting based on what I mentioned, customer lifetime value. I also mentioned excluding current customers with low customer lifetime value. This is definitely a big one, so eliminating that advertising waste. We've done a number of analyses for CPG organizations where, by just removing the bottom 5 or 10% of users, of customers that have a very, very low or even a negative customer lifetime value, they can improve their return on advertising spend by 50, 75, 100%, just because they're removing all the people that are ultimately going to purchase, but we're spending money on them to essentially target them to do nothing. and then also reach users similar to your best customers. So this is another big one. You've probably heard of lookalike audiences. With those lookalike audiences, basically you can create a segment of kind of your best customers, top lifetime value, and then you can feed this over into other products like DV360 to create lookalike audiences based on attributes that your best customers share. And so this will allow you to expand your reach outside of sometimes people that even know your brand, but to deliver these new customers back to your organization as a way to really identify these new best customers. And this is just an infographic. I can't remember where it's from, but showing you how important it is to really just target to those right customers. So using things like a CRM-powered ads actually has been 47% more effective than traditional targeting, which I think is pretty intuitive. If the more information you have on the people that you're advertising to, generally the more successful you're going to be in those advertisements. I actually got a great question from a student in the class I teach at University of Cincinnati, and she was asking me a question on, she had purchased, I can't remember the product for the life of me. I was telling this to someone a little bit ago, but she purchased a product online. And then not only was after she had purchased the product, she was still getting ads to purchase that product, but she was starting to get emails from the company to repurchase the product, and it was something very expensive, like it was like a bed or a TV or something like that. Of course, she's not interested in purchasing a very high priced product like that. You don't purchase those very often, and the fact that she was still getting remarketed to by that organization was very frustrating to her, and she was trying to ask me how that was possible. And so of course, without working with the company, I'm not 100% sure, but my argument was that most likely they weren't able to connect some of their systems, like their CRM system, back with their actual advertising system to be able to take her out of the remarketing that's being done. So she purchases, remove her from any of the future remarketing for the specific product. And so it was just kind of funny because, we're talking about a large brand, and the fact that they are still not able to do this, it's just a little bit mind-boggling. So always important to target the right customers and to be able to have this data, which GA360 and those integrations with the other GMP products is going to help you do. The next section is talking about media modeling. So we talked a little bit about this, but eliminating waste. So of course, stop targeting these people that are coming to the site but are never going to complete a conversion. I was actually talking to our data scientist. She actually co-teaches the class with me at UC. We were talking about ads, and she was mentioning no matter how many times a company advertises to her, she never clicks on the ads. And I was a little bit shocked by that, but she was like, I'm one of the great examples of just eliminating waste. I am never going to purchase a product through an ad. I'm never going to click on an ad. So stop showing me those ads, which I thought it was kind of interesting. I'm more along the lines of if it's a very personalized ad, it makes sense, and I understand what they're trying to do, and I'm interested, of course. Most of the times I'm going to click on that ad to see what it's all about. So in those cases, I shouldn't be probably removed from the targeting, whereas our data scientist, who shows no propensity to actually click on an ad ever, should probably be removed from that, and they're just wasting their money on her because she's never ultimately going to click on one of those ads. Identifying non-incremental media spends is another. So actually getting those insights to what happened after those ad clicks and after you were actually charged for that visit. So we're talking a little bit about view through and click through. If you connect those other Google Marketing Platform products like DV360 to Google Analytics 360, you will get those insights after someone actually clicks on those ads. So if a person clicks on that ad, goes to your site and leaves immediately, that's not obviously what you want, but if they come back, 2 days later, 3 days later, 6 weeks later, depending on how you have your lookup window set up, you're able to tell that they originally came from one of these DV360 ads. And then return on ad spend. So obviously tying conversions and e-commerce revenue to the cost of an advertising channel. So this is huge. We help a lot of our e-commerce organizations understand what they're actually getting for their return on ad spend. without the integrations with DV360 and ads and search ads 360, some of these products, there's no way to get that cost data into Google Analytics. So these integrations actually make it possible to not only pull in things like clicks and impressions, but to also pull in that that spend information. So now you can actually tie e-commerce purchases to the amount of money it actually cost for that person to get advertised to. So getting to that return on ad spend is crucial. Of course, the integrations are only good with the Google Marketing Platform products, but Google Analytics 360 also has ways to import data from other platforms to still do kind of a one-to-one analysis with those GMP products. And this would be an example of this. So in the left-hand side here, you can see we're looking at the cost of acquisition by channel. So we're starting to compare this. Some of this is done through integrations with Google products. Some of this is done through cost data import. But ultimately, at the very right-hand side, we're able to get down to return on advertising spend. So this is ultimately what a lot of e-commerce companies, and rightfully so, want to get to in GA. This is super helpful in understanding, are we in fact getting a return on what we're spending, or are we kind of wasting our time with this specific platform, this ad network, or just the campaigns that we're running for that? And then this was a stat from Google a while back, but the probability of purchase increases by about 1.25 after clicking on AdWords and Facebook ad versus just a Facebook ad. So obviously there's a lot of ways that we can figure this out with data, but being able to have this is obviously important before you can figure that out. So the media mix modeling, allowing you to pull in these types of insights into Google Analytics and then do that analysis on top of that, that's extremely important for trying to sell the value of Google Analytics 360. I believe this is the last section on demonstrating ROI, but this one's on testing and optimization. So you can, if you're using something like Google Optimize 360, which is Google's testing optimization tool, you can actually build and test different audiences based on things like customer lifetime value and other signals. So purchase intent, purchase behavior, and things like that. So being able to tie this Google Analytics 360 data into some type of testing and optimization process is extremely important and extremely helpful in selling this in the organization. You can target users based on where they've come from, based on what they're doing, who they are. So this is another opportunity to show the value of collecting this information and having this information in Google Analytics 360. And then measuring the impact, of course, truly knowing how effective personalized experiences are for your business. That's another important thing. And with the integrations with these other Google Marketing Platform products, you're able to collect kind of the full user journey instead of just saying, okay, someone came to the site, someone purchased, and that's kind of how we leave it. Now you have people have seen ads, people have clicked on ads, all the way to they've come back via, search ads 360 ads and kind of down that line, but you have that full customer journey because you're able to integrate these products that are touching the user in these different customer journey paths. And then this is just an example of a audience you could build based off of certain types of characteristics. So in this case, the person has 4 or more sessions and they've spent over 500, I think that's seconds on the site. So this would be a way to actually remarket, retarget, or show a test to based off of something like Optimize 360 to actually target these types of people. All right, and then this is one of the very overlooked areas of selling an enterprise level tool. How are you actually spending your time? So I think I have a couple stats here. 3 in 5 data professionals say it takes days or weeks to access all the data they need. 70% have challenges with data access. And then 44% of analytics teams spend more than half their time accessing and preparing data rather than doing actual analysis. So these stats are pretty staggering. When it comes to selling something like Google Analytics 360 into your enterprise organization, really package that as a time saving. So of course you save time, you save money. In this case, with Google Analytics 360, there's probably a number of things you're going to save time on. Reporting and insights, generally that's not going to be time savings. That's going to be your actual team doing that. But because you're saving time on data collection, you're saving time on pulling some of this data that used to be in disparate systems, like in DV360 versus in Search Ad 360 versus in GA. Now you have that all in one platform. That saves time for your analysts to then do the actual analysis and insights that you're really paying them for. So being able to generate these insights and recommendations based on this new tool, that's going to be a great way to show the value of the actual platform. So that's a great way. Time savings, definitely a great way to show the return on investment to management. All right, so we've talked a little bit about how to know if you're ready for GA360. So you have to have the people in place, the processes in place to handle an enterprise level tool. We talked a little bit about how to know if you actually need GA360. So if you're running into certain scenarios like sampling, and then how to generate ROI or how to show ROI. The next is I wanted to cover actually selling GA360 to management. So of course, one is focusing on value. So instead of saying, this will be able to do X, Y, and Z, for management, they probably aren't going to understand what integrating some of the double-click products together is going to do, or getting hit level access to data. But being able to show the value with examples of what that means, now we're able to calculate a customer lifetime value. Now we're able to see view through conversions where people don't even have to click an ad. Even if they see our ad, they'll still be tracked as seeing one of our ads, and then we can track them through that customer journey. That's really the easiest way to sell that into management. Leave out the technical details. This is another big one. So in our sales process, generally we'll talk with a couple different types of people. So we'll talk with the very technical people to understand, what systems they have in place, what platforms and tools they use, and then we'll also talk with the very business-minded people that don't really understand the technical details and they really just want to see that value. So really understanding who you're talking to is going to be crucial for having that conversation. Generally, if you're talking with management, you want to make sure that you're not drilling down on technical details. They're probably not going to understand that. You're going to lose their attention. That can lead to losing management's money. Really make sure that you focus on that value that they're able to get, but in a very high level to where they don't need to try to wrap their brain around every single acronym you're using, or try to remember what Google Analytics 360 does versus some other platform that you've asked for again. So just make sure to leave those out. You don't want to see their eyes glaze over when you go approach them for some budget. Emphasize the ROI, or at least how you plan to measure it. This is another big one, which we've been talking about. Budget for people and upskilling, not just for the tools. So this is a very important but often overlooked step. You need to ensure you have a budget for the people to fully utilize the tool that you're going to want to generate some type of return. I can't tell you how many times I've come across companies that purchase an enterprise level tool and don't really have anyone, not a single person that truly understands how to fully leverage that. Of course, that's going to be crucial if you want that deployment to be successful. We can't come into your office every day and sell that to your management team or to show every employee in the organization how it works. We need to teach you how to do things so you can be a little bit self-sufficient. So in that case, we want to make sure that you have the correct people and those people have the correct skills to really take advantage of the enterprise level platform that you're introducing. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of Avinash Kaushik. He is a thought leader in the digital analytics space. I think his title is actually head of, or it's analytics evangelist, I believe, at Google. But he talks about his 90-10 rule a lot. And really the main crux of that rule is that you should spend 90% of your budget on people and the remaining 10% on tools. This might be a bit extreme, but this should really make you think. So there's no enterprise level tool on the market in any industry that you can purchase and it's going to handle the rest of your reporting, your insights for you. You need to really make sure that you have the intelligent people that truly understand the tool and what the tool can do to generate any sort of that return on your investment that you're looking for. And if you don't have anyone within the organization with this skill or knowledge set, you do have a few options. You can hire somebody from the outside with those skills and knowledge. You can hire an analytics partner to act as your internal analytics team, or you can identify a current employee that wants to learn and invest in their education and upskilling. We found that generally 1, 2, and 3 work well. Just kind of depends on how you are selling that to management and who in place can actually kind of manage these processes. The number one reason that enterprise level tools like GA360 fail to get fully adopted within an organization is due to people, or should I say a lack thereof. So not having the right people can lead to an implementation issue or just a complete adoption issue. I've worked with organizations in the past that their entire management team didn't understand anything outside of Adobe Analytics, which is totally fine. That's what they enjoyed. That's what they like to use. But they were trying to sell GA360 internally, and the management team just wasn't having it. The team that was trying to get GA360 just didn't have the people that knew the tool enough to be able to show the pros and cons of the tool. And in that case, it didn't really go anywhere. So they're actually using GA and Adobe Analytics back to back for, I want to say, a couple years, and I'm not sure where they ended up with that, but it was definitely not successful. So it's important to understand, what you're going to get with that tool, but also to have the people and process in place to really fully adopt that tool across the organization. All right, so the last section here I wanted to talk through was finding the right GA360 sales partner. There's a couple things to pay attention to when you are looking for a sales partner. So one thing you want to ask about is account management and support. So how is your sales partner going to manage your account and support you? One of the dirty little secrets in the industry is a lot of the times sales partners are going to sell you a GA360 license very cheap and then give you very low end support. So you're going to be treated essentially like a ticket desk. You email some, support email, they get back to you in a day or two and send you kind of a half-hearted reply. That's not really the way that we think about being a sales partner. We truly believe that we are a full-fledged partner with you, and we want to make sure that we manage and support you almost like we'd want to be supported. So you have dedicated an account manager / consultant on your team. That's the person that knows everything about GA360. That's the person that is going to be involved in the day-to-day, have weekly calls with you, and so on. So definitely an important thing to ask about. How are they going to manage your account? How are they going to support your account? Who you're going to actually be working with at that organization. Another one obviously is going to be Google marketing platform expertise. So there are a lot of sales partners that have a ton of experience with all the products. That's really what you're looking for. You don't want to find a sales partner that only works with GA360. In that case, most of the time, if you're using any other of the products on the platform there, they're not really going to be as helpful as expected. At this point, there really shouldn't be any partners like that. Google's become much more strenuous with their certification process and recertification process for being a sales partner, and it's a requirement to pretty much be experts in all the GMP products. But this is another thing to just double check on. Also, any case studies you can find that kind of leads into experience and industry clientele, the third point here, but any case studies you can find on anything that sales partner does with GA360, with DV360, with BigQuery, those are obviously going to be very helpful in evaluating those. Certifications is another one. So of course, you want to make sure that if you want GA360, you're going through a sales partner and not just the GACP. Google Analytics certified partners are vetted by Google, but they cannot resell the GA360 product unless they're a sales partner as well. So we're a GACP and a GA360 sales partner. Just be cognizant of that. If they're just a GACP, that means they can't resell 360. If they're both, they can resell. And then keep in mind, this is a long-term investment, so most likely it's going to be at least a yearly contract. So in that case, if you can't really envision yourself working with them for very long, then it's probably not going to be a good fit. We've had a number of organizations that have come to us from previous partners just because they really weren't getting what they were expecting out of the relationship. And so obviously we're very happy to have those conversations, but we want to make sure that anybody that's looking for GA360 knows that this is a longer-term investment. We don't want to think about just the next year. We want to think about 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. And so we want to make sure that our partnership is as successful as possible. And so we want to make sure that we have a long-term partnership, not just think of it as kind of like a one-year project. That's not how we're thinking about things. We want to make sure that we're truly going to transform your digital analytics in your organization. All right, so a couple things that you can do. One is negotiating the right agreement. So one thing to keep in mind with GA360, it is tiered pricing, and you have the ability to pay for overages on a monthly basis. So what this means is it's the contract's actually hit based. So the first tier is 0 to 500 million hits a month. And then if you're over that, there are different tier levels you'll be paying for with that. So just keep that in mind. There are tiers with those GA360 contracts. It's not pay one price and you can have 10 billion hits or 500 million. Another thing is it's important to think through how you can actually negotiate with them. Keep in mind, not only is the price a thing, we typically don't negotiate on price at all. We would rather tell you this is how much we know the contract and the platform costs to be successful with your organization. But keep in mind the support, the strategic consulting, and the training that's involved. If you're not getting those along with what you're buying, then I would say you're really not negotiating a very good agreement for your organization. Evaluate product bundles too. So sometimes Google will have product bundles with discounts in place. And so you can chat with the sales partner on that. Any of the current offers, they'll definitely let you know, but make sure you know those ahead of time before you choose one, and then go back and say, oh, we're thinking about Optimize 362. Make sure that if there are any product bundles, they have to be purchased together. Keep that in mind. Definitely inquire about that. And then remember your two levers, so price and terms. If you can't get a better price, then definitely try for better terms. So the terms can really be anything. In terms of what we're talking about here, the support hours, the number of training hours that you're getting, and a few other things. So a number of things you can negotiate there. So I guess I'll leave with this. GA360 is a very powerful platform that can really make a massive difference in how you measure, grow, and optimize your digital business. We tend to see that companies that are the most successful in implementing GA360 follow a certain process, and this is kind of the process that we have outlined here. So purpose, the why of the project, what you're trying to get out of this change, platforms, the solutions that you need to be successful. This is really where GA360 falls. People, so making sure that you're properly staffed and your team has the proper training. Processes, so daily, weekly, and monthly processes for how you're going to use these new people, these new platforms. Pace, can your team be more agile to deliver results and insights faster? And then profit, of course, the impact on the bottom line. If you'd like to discuss GA360 in more detail, please reach out to me. I mentioned my email address is going to be on one of the last slides in this deck. We can walk you through how we use the 6 Ps to transform organizations' digital analytics, and we love talking about this. Our CMO has actually written a number of articles on this specific process on Forbes and a couple of other sites, so you can definitely do a search for that and find those as well. Okay, so that was a lot to present. I'm going to stop here. We'll go over some questions that I saw come through. If there are any other questions while I'm looking through this, definitely let me know. Let's see, one question from David. Are there any offline sales connections with GA360 you are aware of? Offline sales connections. Okay, well, depending on what you mean by offline sales connections, Google Analytics, the free version and the 360 version, can accept data from really anywhere that's connected to the internet. So anything like a point of sale system, a CRM system, email marketing system, any of these types of systems that can actually make HTTP requests can actually send data over into Google Analytics or Google Analytics 360. So we actually have, if you look this one up on Google, a Google Analytics case study with Pelican Waters, and that case study was built off of us actually making an offline integration with our Salesforce to actually send call center data back into Google Analytics 360 to close the loop on the actual purchase process. So I'm not going to go into too much detail because it's kind of complicated, but yeah, you can definitely send offline sales connections, offline sales information into GA360. Let's see, does view-through attribution reporting include search queries? I do not believe it does. I think it only includes actual ads that are placed around there that you can actually see. View-through, yeah, I don't believe it includes search queries at all. It's really more of a, maybe you're asking like paid search queries. Not 100% sure there, David, but I'm pretty sure it's only the ads that you actually see. Let's see. A good question here from Dom. If we're still unsure about J360, are there other resources that InfoTrust provides? Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a lot of resources, to be honest with you, online. If you go to InfoTrust.com, there's a resources section that has a number of case studies, client success stories, client quotes, blog posts, upcoming webinars, all types of information on GA360 and some of the other products that we work with. So, yep, great question there, Dom. And another question from Hadley. If we are not having issues with sample data yet, is there another immediate reason we should upgrade to 360? Yeah, that's a good question. So we went through some of those things that you might run into when you potentially need GA360. If you don't run into sample data yet, it most likely means that you're not getting a ton of traffic, but there are a number of other reasons why you might choose GA360 even at that point. A couple of the big ones are the integrations that you get with GA360. So as we've been talking a little bit about this with like view-through conversions, click-through conversions, any of those integrations with the other Google Marketing Platform products, if you need that type of full customer journey there, then yes, the GA360 is the only way to integrate those other tools with your GA360. So in that case, that's a great example of why you might still upgrade if you aren't just getting sample data. There are a few others, things like data freshness that we mentioned, having a service level agreement for your organization. Yeah, there's a number of reasons why you might go down that path, even if you're not running into sample data yet. But great question. Let's see, Mario, how do I determine the value of my conversions to establish the objectives and measure ROI? Is there a given formula? No, not really. So, of course, it's not that simple. Depending on how you're trying to measure ROI and what you mean by value of your conversions, it's obviously very easy if it's something like e-commerce. You know, you can show how much each person is worth, and then for things like customer lifetime value, there is a fairly complex calculation that's done, which I'm not a data scientist. I don't want to get into because I honestly don't know. But it's a very complicated process for figuring that out. So depending on how you're trying to measure ROI, what you mean by value of your conversions, there's a number of ways of actually measuring that. And that's something that any sales partner can really help you build that case for your management. So Mario, if you have any additional follow-up questions to that, definitely send me an email. I'd love to chat with you. And then a good question from Tony, is there a recommended budget range for a GA360 project? Honestly, so the price for GA360 is going to be pretty much the same for any sales partner. Just to let you know, it does start around $150,000 a year, but that does come with all the support that you get. Depending on, it's kind of hard to say because depending on how many employees you currently have who can really manage that within the organization, we're not going to know those internal things unless we have a chat with you. But generally it is an enterprise level tool, so it does come with a decent amount of budget that's required. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure the best way to answer your question there, Tony. It's a big amount, but in terms of other analytics tools, it's going to end up being cheaper than something like an Adobe Analytics. If I follow a 90-10 rule. Yeah, good point, Tony. Like I said, I think Avinash was being a little tongue-in-cheek when he mentioned the 90-10 rule. I don't think anyone's going to spend a couple $1,000,000 on just employees and then spend, $100,000 on a product or something like that. I think the way that he's positioning that more is to kind of shock your system to think, wow, if he's talking about 90-10 rule, we're spending 95% of our budget on marketing platforms, and the other 5% is going to our employees. So I think that's more or less he was just trying to shock you with the kind of contrast there between the two. But yeah, it kind of depends on what your organization is comfortable with spending, I guess. All great questions, though, Tony. Appreciate that. Let's see. Just seeing, doesn't look like there's any other questions coming in here. Before we wrap up here, I did want to mention we have a couple upcoming InfoTrust webinars. So if you're interested in these topics, definitely check it out. You can find them at infotrust.com/events. But you see we have one coming up on how to get the most out of your web platforms with tracking mobile app analytics, and then another one on why customer data governance is the foundation of your in-house strategy. So some cool topics. There should be some other upcoming webinars up here. I think these are the two next ones that we have. So really look forward to seeing you guys. Hopefully we'll hear from you guys and see you on an upcoming webinar. But again, if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email's right here. And again, we will send out a copy of the recording, and also we'll send a copy of the slides as well. But thanks for joining, everyone. I haven't seen any other questions, so appreciate your time today. Let me know if there's any questions. Hopefully we'll hear from you soon.